Well, welcome into the brand new Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. I am your Fat Daddy host, Craig, and I am looking forward to talking some sports with you today and in the future. We'll see how this thing goes. This is episode 1 of the Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. Today, I just want to do a brief introduction, who I am, why I want to start this podcast, why I think there's a place for this podcast, and where the direction of this podcast is going to go. So, like I said, my name is Craig. I am an avid sports fan, have been a sports fan for many, many years. Um, Specifically, NFL football is where I really focus in. I get lost on Sunday afternoons just on the Red Zone channel, watching every game, absorbing every stat that I can, looking into you name it, anything and everything. I love the college game as well, but NFL is where I really focus in. I think that's because there's just less teams. Big Ten football, big fan of that. I'm a Michigan Wolverine fan, and say what you want about the state of the Wolverines over the past few decades, but I bleed maize and blue, and Big Ten football, just live for it, love it. But the NFL is where it's at for me. And my love for football started many years ago when I was a little kid. Loved playing football out in the yard with my friends. Really, probably, I don't know, around age 7, around, you know, late 90s, just playing with the old Halloween costumes, the Hutch brand Halloween costumes with the very thin shoulder pads, the helmets that were definitely not safe to be tackling people in. But I would have mine on, my friend would have his brother would have his, and we would be out there in the yard. One of us would be all-time quarterback, the other two would just beat the snot out of each other, and we would play for hours out there. And that's where my love for football really started. Started playing some Madden football back on the Sega Genesis and the PlayStation 1, and really started to learn positions and players because of that, and then started watching football on TV. My family was never really into sports, but uh, I just kind of took on that sports role, was always watching sports as a kid. And again, specifically NFL football was where I was at. Nothing has really changed. And a big part of that is fantasy football. I've been an avid fantasy football player for 25 plus years. Countless different platforms, countless different teams, formats, players, you name it. I've pretty much done it all. And just something that I really love to do. I love to talk fantasy football. I love to, I don't know. I talk nonstop about fantasy football. The people in my league can't stand me. They are so sick of me sending trade offers, and my wife can only listen to so much fantasy football talk. So thought I would turn on a camera, turn on a microphone, and try to connect to some other like-minded people that are crazy about fantasy football, crazy about football in the NFL. And, fantasy football is really something that I think a lot of people really tune into each week, and they follow the NFL because of that. And we've obviously seen over the past few years, there's a lot of guys that, want to dog on fantasy football, a lot of players that want to dog on fantasy football and act like they don't care about us and our teams. But in reality, we're paying the bills for a lot of them. Ratings are through the roof because of fantasy football, because of gambling, and the fan is really driving that right now. And so there's a huge push, a huge growth in the fantasy football world. And I love to see it because, like I said, I've been a part of it for 25 plus years. And now it's starting, not starting, but it is blowing up. It's everywhere. Gambling is everywhere. And I just want to find other people to talk that with and talk through things and give my opinion on things and hear other opinions on things. So, more about me. I'm a diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan. And before you say anything about being a bandwagon fan, let me just tell you about the 90s being a Chiefs fan. Whew, there were some bad teams there for a while. the early 2000s came in and got players like Trent Green and Priest Holmes. And that really, as a kid growing up and getting to root for those guys, Tony Gonzalez a little bit there at the end, had some better teams. But for the most part, my childhood was some bad Kansas City Chiefs fan or teams, rooting for some bad teams. And so now I'm just on cloud nine because, boy, we had some bad teams there for a while. Lived through some very, very bad games and some heartbreak seasons where they would finally get to the playoffs and then piss it down their legs every single year, it felt like. So then Mahomes comes along, things start to change. You can say what you want about the referees, but hey, I don't care. I don't care. So my favorite team is the Chiefs, like I said, but I just truly love the NFL. There are teams that I love, that I root for. Not as much as the Chiefs, and if they're playing the Chiefs, I obviously favor the Chiefs, but teams like the Bills, I would love to see the Bills break through and win. I'm a big Josh Allen fan, love what he does off the field. I love watching him play. There's just a handful of teams out there that if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, maybe I would root for those teams, but I just love good quality football. I love good quality human beings. And there's guys around the NFL that I root for that are not part of the Chiefs organization. For whatever reason, I just am drawn to those type of players like a Justin Jefferson. Tying that back into fantasy football, I had him on my team as a keeper for quite a few years. And so I have just been a Justin Jefferson fan since he came out of LSU. Um, on this podcast, I think weekly you can expect to talk a little NFL news. We're going to talk injuries. We're going to talk any trades or free agency signings. We're going to talk about games, game recaps, things that have happened over the weekend. We're going to talk fantasy football, obviously. I don't necessarily want it to be fully revolved around fantasy football or fully revolved around breaking news. I want this more so to be just you're just hanging out with your buddies talking football. There's going to be some outlandish takes on here. There's going to be some spot on takes here, but more so than anything, it's like you're just drinking beers with your buddies in the garage talking football. I am by no means a news breaker or a top sports reporter, nor do I want to do that. This is not my full-time job. Don't care for it to be my full-time job. I just like talking football and looking for other people that want to do the same thing. On that note, I want to dive into our first episode here with some bold takes for the 2026 NFL season. I want to start out with the MVP pick, who I think has the best chance of winning the MVP. There's a lot of choices out there. Obviously Josh Allen, I think, is the odds-on favorite right now to win the MVP award. Joe Burrow's up there. Lamar's up there. There's a lot of good choices, but I am going to take my pick to LA, to the Chargers, Justin Herbert. I think Herbert has shown things in his career so far of obviously being an elite quarterback the last few years, up and down. Last year was maybe a little bit better, but I think getting the new OC, Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins, I think is going to unlock an aspect of Justin Herbert's game that we haven't seen before. I think he is going to be running and throwing that football all over. And I want, specifically in fantasy football, I want pieces of that Chargers offense, any piece that I can get my hand on. I think Jim Harbaugh obviously is a very old school coach. He has a very distinct offense that he likes to run. And being a Michigan fan, I got to see that. He got a little bit more innovative as time went on at Michigan, but then went back to the NFL, and he's been that hard-nosed, grinded-out type of offense. And obviously with Greg Roman there, he has a lot of the same philosophy. And I think that this Mike McDaniel switch to OC is going to be a big key for the Chargers moving forward. I think they're going to be a very, very tough team this year. I think they're going to be a much improved team, especially offensively. And I think Justin Herbert is going to be dynamite. I think he is going to light the league on fire this year. And he's going to run away with the MVP trophy. I don't think it's even going to be close. I think by about halfway through the season, we are going to be all in love with Justin Herbert's game. And I say that as a diehard Chiefs fan. I've heard it for years that this year is the Chargers' year, and it never seems to work out that way. But I don't know. I'm a little worried about that team in LA this year. Obviously the Broncos had a good year last year, and the Raiders have done some things in the offseason to improve their team. I think they're going to be a much improved team, but the Chargers scare me a little bit offensively. I think they're going to have some weapons. I think Amari and Hampton's going to run wild out there, and I think Herbert running and passing is just going to open up lanes for Hampton. They're going to be scary this year. I think Justin Herbert runs away with the MVP pick. Going off of that, let's talk Super Bowl. Do I think that the Chargers are going to be good enough to make it to the Super Bowl? I don't. I think they're a playoff team. Whether they win the West or they get in as a wild card team, I think they're good enough to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're good enough to get to that next level quite yet. I think that there's a team in the AFC that has been a perennial powerhouse for years and years and years, and the Kansas City Chiefs sadly are not that team. As much as I want to say the Chiefs are going to make it to the Super Bowl or be in the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, that defense scares me this year. Oh man, there's some question marks, new players, lot of holes to fill, especially in the secondary. The linebackers are the same linebackers they've had for the most part, but they've struggled in some games. And obviously, Mahomes coming off of that injury, Travis Kelce getting old. He's the same age as me. I know that I have no business being out on an NFL field and can't imagine taking those hits week in and week out. So Chiefs are they're going to be a lot of fun. I just don't know how soon they're going to be fun. If it's going to take half a season to get them up to speed. I'm really looking forward to that Kenneth Walker in the backfield this year. But no, the team in the NFC or AFC that I think is going to make it to the Super Bowl is the Buffalo Bills. I think Josh Allen has been right there so many times and just hasn't gotten it done. I think the new head coach change to Joe Brady is going to unlock a game that we haven't seen from Josh Allen. I talk about Justin Herbert running and throwing all over the place, but I think Josh Allen's going to throw the ball a lot this year. Got some new weapons in the free agency. I know that DJ Moore hasn't necessarily lived up the last few years, but I think the change of scenery for DJ Moore, getting him out of Chicago, getting him to Buffalo is going to help Josh Allen a lot. It's going to help DJ Moore a lot. Ultimately, it's going to help the Bills' entire team out a lot. And I think that the Bills are going to be a very, very tough team, as they always are late in the season. They've got that new stadium. They've got a lot of things going right for them. And I think that this is the year that they break through, they get back to that Super Bowl, and they face the LA Rams. The Rams, good Lord, that defense is going to be loaded. Especially if they get Aaron Donald out of retirement, pair him with Myles Garrett, the secondary that they've added all from Kansas City, and their linebackers are good. Just a good team top to bottom. And then obviously we know what their offense is year in and year out. Matt Stafford, he just never seems to get old. He's just keeps motoring, throwing that ball out to Puka. And they've got the run game, the 1-2 punch with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. I just think the Rams this year, same thing. They're going to break through. They're going to get back to that Super Bowl, and we're going to have a Rams versus Bills Super Bowl. And I think in the end, I think the Rams are probably going to do it. I'd like to see the Bills do it, but I think that the Rams are probably going to win that game come February. Biggest bust pick of the year. Oh boy. Biggest bust of the year. How about the Seahawks? I think the Seahawks are going to be the biggest bust of the year coming off of that Super Bowl. I think there's going to be that little bit of Super Bowl hangover. Obviously lost some key pieces to that team, some key coaches. I could just see a big down year coming. I think the 49ers are going to be better. I think the Rams are going to be very good. I think the Cardinals are going to stink. But Maybe they're better. I don't know. It's a tough division out there in the NFC West, and I just see the Seahawks' path to Super Bowl contenders again, or even playoffs again. It's gonna be tough. They're gonna have that first place schedule. The Seahawks and the 49ers and the Rams every year are tough. And I think that the path for the Seahawks is going to be harder. I think teams are going to find new ways to try to lock down JSN. He is lights out, man. He is so fast, so good. And that pains me as a Michigan Wolverine to say that about a former Buckeye, but man, he is elite. He is good. Showed that all year last year. And, you know, losing Kenneth Walker hurts them big time. He was big down the stretch for them, big in the Super Bowl. And I just think teams are going to figure out Sam Darnold a little bit more. And, I don't know what you classify as a bust. If they make the playoffs, they're still a good team. They made the playoffs. I just think repeating as Super Bowl champs is not going to happen for the Seahawks. Maybe it will. Prove me wrong, Sam Darnold. Prove me wrong. I'd love to be wrong on that. Actually, I would love for the Chiefs to end up winning it all. That's what I'd love to be wrong about the whole thing, but that's neither here nor there. And then finally, my boldest prediction for the entire season is that the Packers miss out on the playoffs and Matt LaFleur gets canned. Some Packers fans may hate that. Some Packers fans may love that. But when you look at the big games, Matty Ice has not performed. And I think if they miss the playoffs this year, could be time to move on. I don't know who you replace him with, but we see more and more firings every year in the NFL. So I could see that happening. Could also be wrong, and the Packers win the NFC North in a landslide. Who knows? The NFC North is always up for grabs. But I just think if you want a bold take, my boldest take for the NFL season, it's that the Packers missed the playoffs and Matt LaFleur is fired. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. Be sure to tune in next episode as we look at more NFL news and the upcoming season. Catch you later.